In at 5, Charlotte's Web. Now this game has quite an interesting legend. According to some backstory, Charlotte was a 7-year-old girl whose mother was accused of practicing illegal witchcraft and was burnt to death, after which it was believed that Charlotte had escaped into the woods. Now to begin the game you must enter a room with another person. 2 people is a must. Place 2 chairs in it, each with a distance of 2 feet, facing them in the same direction. You then must place a mirror in front of the chairs in a way that you can see their reflection while being seated. Before you sit down, you must now place a table behind the chairs in a way that it can be seen in the mirror when no one is seated. You then must place a toy on the table, again in a way so you can see it in the reflection. Turn on the flashlight and turn off all other lights in the room. Now both people should sit down in the chairs and look at the mirror. Repeat together, we want to play Charlotte's Web. Continue to look at the mirror. Do not take your eyes away from it. Specifically, keep your eyes on the toy in the mirror, if it's still there that is. Don't turn around no matter what. Just keep looking at the toy. If the ghost takes the toy, that means she is pleased and wants attention, and in turn might want to talk. You may ask questions one at a time without turning around, once again focusing on the mirror. In order to end the game, simply say together, "Goodbye Charlotte." Again, do not turn around until you see that the toy is gone, and that the girl has wandered off from the reflection in the mirror. Then immediately turn all the lights on. A side note, when playing the game you must only, and I mean only, use a flashlight. Do not use a flame because, as we know, the girl's mother was burnt at the stake, and that may scare her away, plus it's just rude. In at 4, Dry Bones. Similar to a few other games coming up on our list, Dry Bones is equally as horrifying, but unlike the others on our list, there is a prize at the end of this one, if you get lucky that is. The game must be played alone and is a game that specifically summons a demon, so be warned. To play you must first turn off all the lights in your house. Classic. Then light a candle and go into a room with a mirror exactly 12:01 AM. Now what you do next is a little tricky and very creepy. You must stare into a mirror until you feel the presence of someone or something other than yourself in the room. Once you feel another presence with you, you must tell the demon, "I acknowledge your presence and welcome you into my house for a game of hide and seek till 3 AM. I acknowledge your presence and welcome you into my house for a game of hide and seek till 3 AM. You can come in now." After saying this, you have to run and find the best hiding spot you can without making any noise whatsoever. The aim here is to not, and I mean not, get caught. If you manage to stay hidden till 3 AM, the game is over and you have won the game. You then have to go into the biggest room in the house and announce that the game is over and that the demon is no longer welcome in your home. However, before leaving, the demon will grant you a winning present. When he does this, you should be able to hear his voice right behind you. However, if you lose the game, well, I think we all know what happens then. You dead. In at 3, One Man Hide and Seek. Now there are a few requirements for this game, so listen very carefully. You will need a pair of nail clippers, a sack of uncooked rice, a stuffed doll with proper limbs, a cup of salt water, a TV, red thread, a needle, a sharp-edged knife or a pair of scissors, incense, a bathtub, and of course, like the name says, you will need a hiding place. Now to begin, you'll use a sharp knife or a pair of scissors to cut open the doll and remove its stuffing. Then fill the doll with the uncooked rice, clip one of your fingernails and place it into the doll along with the rice. Then stitch the doll with the red thread and without cutting it, wrap the remaining thread around the doll. You then must fill up the bathtub with water and purify the room in which the ritual is being performed with incense. Then place a television in the room. Now place a cup of salt water in your hiding spot and give a name to the doll. At 3 AM precisely you must repeat, "Your name is the first it" to the doll. Then submerge the doll in the bathtub and leave it there. Turn off the light and go to your hiding spot and turn on the TV. Close your eyes, count to 10, and once done, take the scissors or knife and go near the tub. Next, you remove the doll from the tub and repeat, "I have found you." Doll's name. Then cut off the red thread and repeat, "You are the next it." And then say the doll's name again, and then put the doll back in the tub. Return to your hiding spot and remain silent. Fill your mouth with salt water and hold it. Do not swallow it. Hold the remaining water in the cup. Now start looking for the doll because it may no longer be in the place you left it. When found, pour the remaining water onto the doll as well as the water in your mouth. Repeat, "I win" to the doll. Once the game is done, allow the doll to dry, burn it, and get rid of the burnt remains. According to the legend of the game, it is believed that the rice represents the internal organs of the doll, luring the spirit toward it. Red thread, on the other hand, represents blood vessels, and cutting it off releases the spirit inside. Once started, the game must be finished, otherwise you may meet a gruesome end. In it too, the midnight game. One of the scariest games on our list has to be started before midnight. It is a game to begin with, but once it begins, the game ends. You'll see why. Originally, it was believed that the game was a punishment for those who demystified the laws of gods, and is very much like an ancient pagan ritual. For those wishing to play the game, you must begin with a piece of paper with your full name and a small amount of your own blood that you must drip onto the paper. Allow the paper to soak up the blood and proceed by calling out the dark, aka just turn off all the lights. You then must place the paper with a lit candle on top of it in front of a wooden door. The door should be closed. Then knock on the door 22 times, calculating the final knock exactly when the clock strikes 12. Open the door now, and then blow out the candle to invite the midnight man inside. If you dare, that is. You then must continue to move around the house until 3:33 AM to keep away from the midnight man with a newly lit candle. However, if the flame goes out, or if you don't light it in 10 seconds, there is a possibility of being caught. It is believed that if the candle goes out or you don't light it in time, you should enclose yourself in a circle of salt, and should not attempt to come out before 3:33 AM. Once this is complete, turn the lights on, and the game is over. And finally, in at number 1, The Hooded Man. This game is not for the faint-hearted, trust me. It is believed to create a link to a world that is drastically different from our own. To play the game, you must shut all the doors, windows, draw the curtains, turn off the lights, and unplug all electronic devices in your home. During the game, you must carry only a watch for the entire ritual, and anything that holds power must be kept away. You must then count to 13, sit near the telephone, and dial the haunted number 204-96888. Then tie a black cord to the receiver and repeat the dial, but this time with a different number, i.e. 255-15823. Repeating this, counting till 13, and say, "Hello, I need a cab," into the receiver. Then replace the previous black cord with the second one and burn the initial cord. Outside the window, a cab will now be parked. Get into the back seat of it, lock the door, and go to sleep. A short while later, you will wake up. Check your watch. If it strikes 3:30 AM, go back to sleep. However, if it shows a time other than 3:30, exit the cab immediately and return to your home. However, if you wake up the second time, you will find the cab being driven on a highway by a man wearing a hood. Don't freak out or try to escape. What you must do is whisper into the man's ear that you have reached your destination. Then you must fall back to sleep one more time. When you wake up the third time, you will find yourself back at home. Once inside, dial the number 200082 and say, "Thank you for the ride." Untie the black cord from the phone and burn it like the previous ones. This is important. Do not forget to bury the ashes of the cords in the ground. Otherwise, the entire game may fail. Once done, sprinkle some salt on the burial site and follow up with a cleansing ritual. Easy, right? Now coming in at 5, Latum Alterum. Now this paranormal game invites ghosts to party at your house, which is somewhat of a sad statement when you have no friends and need to chill with the dead. Anyway, to play this game you will need candles, matches, a knife, a piece of paper, a mirror, and finally a dark room to sit in. To begin, bring all your materials, including yourself, into the dark room. Set the mirror on a wall and sit down. Second, grab your paper and lay it in front of you. Grab your knife and make a small cut in your thumb, big enough to ooze out some blood by squeezing your thumb. Squeeze the blood out onto your paper. Third, light a single match and light the candle. Lay the candle over your blood on the paper. Fourth, chant 3 times, I quote, "I wish to speak with the other side. You are allowed into my home, to my event." Fifth, blow out the candle and light another one. Close your eyes and say, "Thanks for coming to the event. I hope we have a pleasant get-together. Welcome." Sixth, Finally, light the candle. If the match doesn't light or goes out more than 3 times, I advise you to run to the nearest light source and do not go back into that room until morning. Now, if you completed the steps I mentioned, you should begin to experience 1 out of 3 things. If you hear whispering behind you, that means they have accepted to come into your home, and they are talking to each other. You may feel tingling, but don't worry, that's just the spirits trying to get your attention. You cannot turn around though, no matter what. If they touch you, do not turn around. Second, if you don't hear whispering but you hear taps and knocks around your home, that means they accepted the invite but would rather explore your house than hang out with you. Pretty sus, to be honest. Third, if none of the 2 happen and the candle goes out, close your eyes and chant, I quote, "The event is over, you shall all go home and never return. Once done, leave the room and don't return until morning." Fun times. In at 4, Daruma-san. Also known as the bath game, this paranormal game is pretty simple. It summons a woman's spirit for a fun game of hide and seek. However, it's not as straightforward as normal hide and seek, because if the spirit catches you, well, it's game over. Forever. What makes this game curious is that Odama dolls are traditionally symbols of good luck, and this game in no way abides by those rules. So before we begin, play it at your own risk. To play the game, you'll need just 1 person, yourself, and 1 bathroom with a bathtub. Important, it must be a bathtub. Here are the steps. You must begin at night, just before you go to bed. Shed your clothes, then enter the bathroom and fill the tub with water and turn off all the lights. Climb into the tub and sit down facing the faucet. Close your eyes and begin washing your hair. As you do this, repeat the words Daruma-san fell down, Daruma-san fell down. Do not stop repeating this until you have finished washing your hair, and do not open your eyes. If you have followed the previous steps correctly, you will gain a mental image of a Japanese woman standing in a bathtub. She will slip and fall, landing face first on a rusty tap and gouging her right eye out. Should you hear any noise behind you or feel movement in the tub, do not, and I mean do not, turn around and do not open your eyes. Ask aloud, why did you fall in the bathtub? Allow the question to hang in the air, then keep your eyes shut. Carefully stand up and get out of the tub. Do not trip and fall yourself, and do not drain the tub. Exit the bathroom, shutting the door behind you. You may now open your eyes. Leave the bathroom as you left it, water in the tub, door shut until morning. Do not turn on any lights. Now, go to sleep. Now that was just the prelude. This is the main event. Awaken at your usual time. The game begins as soon as you open your eyes. Go about your day as normal. You will feel a constant presence behind you. It is likely that, should you turn to look, you will see nothing. However, glancing over your right shoulder may occasionally reveal a glimpse of her. Her hair will be black and tangled, and she will have only 1 eye. She will attempt to get closer and closer to you as the day goes on. Should you spot her and find that she is too close for comfort, shout "Tamer," that is, stop, and run away. The idea is to put some distance between you and her. Do not allow her to catch you. Now the game ends when you capture her in your gaze by looking over your right shoulder. Shout "Kitta," that is, I cut you loose, while swinging your arm down in a chopping motion. If you have performed this action correctly, a winning condition will have been achieved and the game will be over. If you have not performed this correctly, run, cause you're dead. Coming in at 3, the picture game. This paranormal game allows you to snap a picture of a spirit. Yeah, something we've all wanted to do, right? For this game you'll need at least 2 participants, the more the better. You will also need a length of string, rope or other similar material, scissors, a knife or another sharp edge, 1 small mirror for each person, a camera with flash, a drinking glass, a beverage and a quiet room. To begin you must start at midnight. Make the string or rope into a circle by tying the ends together in a knot. Place the rope circle in the middle of the room and then place the drinking glass in the middle of the rope circle. Fill the glass with the beverage. Arrange the participants in a circle by seating them around the outside of the rope circle. A word of warning, do not step into the center of the circle at any time. Each participant must place their mirror in front of them. The reflected part should be pointed at the ceiling. Next, turn off all of the lights. Now the invitation begins. The participants must close their eyes and hold hands. Each person must say one after another the phrase "I trust you." Again, do not speak the phrase in unison. Each person must say it individually. After each person has stated those words, they should now repeat 3 times in unison the words, "The door is open, please come in." You may now open your eyes. Next up, the sitting. Begin the sitting by having one participant take up the camera. The person must say the words, "I caught you," then point the cameras forward toward the middle of the circle. They must take just one picture. Next, pass the camera to the next person in the circle. They must repeat the same phrase and take a picture. The camera should make its way around the circle 3 times. After this, put it down. Next up, we have the farewell. All participants must close their eyes and repeat 3 times, in unison this time, the phrase, "It is time to go home." Each person must now turn their mirrors upside down. Turn on the lights, using scissors or knife, cut open the rope circle. Take the drinking glass outside and empty it. You may now review the photo taken during the ritual. What do you see? Look closely. Closer. There it is. Coming in at 2, the 3 Kings. Now this game takes you to a place called the shadow side in order to get answers. You will need a few things before we begin: a very large, empty and quiet room, preferably one without windows. If there are windows, you need to cover them to ensure total darkness. A pack of candles and a lighter, a bucket of water and a mug, a fan, 2 large mirrors, 3 chairs, an alarm clock, an active cell phone, a loved one willing to follow the rules, and a small toy or object from your childhood. Now begin the setup around 11 PM. Place 1 chair in the center of the room facing north. This is important. Place the other 2 chairs exactly to the left and right facing your throne. The distance between your throne and that of your queen and fool should be about the length of your arm to each side, more or less. Place 2 large mirrors on the queen and fool's chair, left and right of you, facing you. Try your best to have them stand at a 90-degree angle. You may get more or less than 3 kings. If you sit on your throne facing straight ahead, you should be able to perceive your own reflection in each of the 2 mirrors without actually having to turn your head nor your eyes to do so. If you see your own reflection in the corner of your eye, just barely there, then you've done it right. Place a bucket of water in the mug in front of you, just barely out of reach. Place the fan behind you and turn it on. Turn off the lights, leave the door open and go to your bedroom. Set the candles by the side of the bed. Next to a lighter, your alarm clock and cell phone. Set your alarm for 3:30 AM. Turn off the lights and sleep while holding your power object. Now it's showtime. Wake up at 3:30 AM, but don't turn on the light. You have exactly 3 minutes to light your candle. Grab your cell phone and make your way to the dark room to sit in your throne. You should be seated by 3:33 AM. Don't forget your object. Once in your throne, do not look directly at either of the 2 mirrors beside you. Protect the candle with your body, which is standing in between. Look straight ahead at the darkness. Not at the candle, not at the mirrors, just watch straight ahead. Now you may have noticed that I didn't say during the setup which chair was queen and which was a fool. That's because it's your job to find out. And from their point of view, you are either their queen or their fool too, hence 3 kings. But suffice to say, you will not be alone, and if you have questions, you will get answers. Finally, coming in at number 1, elevator game. Now this paranormal game supposedly transports you to another world. For this game you'll need 1 player, yourself, and 1 building that is at least 10 stories high with an elevator. To begin, enter your chosen building and get into the elevator on the 1st floor alone. Do not proceed if anyone else is in the elevator with you. Press the button for the 4th floor. When the elevator reaches the floor, do not get out. Instead, remain inside and press the button for the 2nd floor. When you reach the floor, once again remain inside and press the button for the 6th floor. Do the same again, but this time, when you reach the 6th floor, do not get out and press the button for the 2nd floor. Again, when you reach the floor, do not get out and press the button for the 10th floor. When you reach the 10th floor, remain inside and press the button for the 5th floor. When you reach the 5th floor, a young woman may enter the elevator. Do not look at her. Do not speak to her. She is not what she seems. Press the button for the 1st floor. If the elevator begins ascending to the 10th floor instead of descending to the 1st, you may proceed. If the elevator descends to the 1st floor, exit as soon as the doors open. Do not look back. Do not speak. However, if you reach the 10th floor, you may either choose to get off the elevator or to stay on it. If you choose to get off, and if the woman entered the elevator on the 5th floor, she will ask you, "Where are you going?" Do not answer her. Do not look at her. You will know whether you have arrived at the other world by 1 indication and 1 only. The only present in it is you.
Starting this list as fantastical as possible, this is a board game commissioned by a vampire. It's said to exist somewhere, but hasn't been rumored to be around since the 70s. Although, if that's true, it's an extraordinarily sturdy board game, as it was created at some point in the 1700s. Joc de Morte means game of death, of course, and was created to ease the boredom of one Prince Dracula of Wallachia. Our second generation vampire was bored of the ins and outs of daily murder and bloodbath. He wanted a real challenge, one that couldn't be provided by his cushy vampire air lifestyle. So he reached out to the sorcerer Dimitri Diablo, who took up the challenge to create the ultimate supernatural board game of death. He slaved over the coals of hell for over a year before coming up with the definitive death-dealing, dice-rolling, Dracula-pleasing experience. The first playthrough was attended by Dracula, Dimitri, another vampire, a witch, a lycan, and a human. The playing board takes you through a damned castle and surrounding cursed forest. There are dice, riddle cards, and a magic crystal ball to move the game along. Sounds pretty boilerplate for board games, but just you wait. Magical beings will materialize during play and attack the participants. Demons, poltergeists, vampires, werewolves, zombies, and more will show up as active astral projections. While warding off these aggressors, players will quest for the devil's unholy grail, said to give a pure evil soul the ultimate power while damning the rest straight to hell. High stakes, to say the least. On this initial playthrough, only Dracula and Dimitri survived, to the prince's great delight. After a while, as all princes do, Dracula got bored of his new toy and sent it off to the human world for a laugh. Humans, without the powers associated with being a vampire prince, are easily haunted and possessed by the beings that inhabit this game, causing all sorts of trouble. Coming back to that last sighting in the 70s, it killed 43 people, despite only 6 actively playing. Although, it did happen in Iowa, which at least added some excitement to their dry, boring lives. Sorry Iowa, it's not you, it's me. Coming in at number 4, Boards and Beans. Okay, this one isn't any one specific board game, but it is an entire haunted board game cafe. You should probably avoid playing for too long here unless you want to adopt a little ghost to take home with you. Back in 2016, the owners of a Regina-based board game cafe started noticing some strange happenings around their store. They saw a little girl looking out the window. Doesn't seem too spooky, right? In fact, at first, she thought it was her granddaughter. But then her granddaughter walked in from the other side of the room, scaring her absolute pants off. After this, many other sightings took place in the board game cafe. Customers would complain about strange noises and that they had been touched by an unseen presence during their time in the coffee shop. Multiple sightings of a new employee behind the counter were reported as well, but there was no new employee to speak of. Ghosts would cause mischief as well, opening their industrial dishwasher and sending baked goods flying across the room. There's also a supposed video of a specter moving through the store as well, causing footage of the owner to distort in an odd way, but that is yet to be fully explained. Eventually, the paranormal and supernatural team was called in, leading to the debunking of some of the claims. However, the investigators did still find some unexplainable things and went away not being 100% sure what to think about it. So if you want to play some normal board games in a haunted environment, Boards and Beans is the place for you. Coming at number 3, Ouija. What would a cursed board game list be without the classic spirit talking board? You take a board with the alphabet printed on it, and numbers 1 through 10, yes or no, and you put a planchette on that board, and then you put your fingers on the planchette, and bam! Paranormal experience. Interestingly enough, they were regarded as simple parlor games when they first came out until American spiritualist Pearl Curran popularized their use as a divining tool during World War I. Since then, the spooky Ouijas have grown in popularity as spirit mediums. Churches have publicly warned against their use, claiming that demonic possession is a very real risk, although occultists tend to be more divided. On one hand, there are plenty of positive aspects to contacting the spirit realm. You can learn a lot or get closure from a loved one. However, they also know that inexperienced or reckless users do have a higher chance of being attacked or possessed by otherworldly entities. The scientific community remains unconvinced though. They believe Ouija to be a form of pseudoscience, with unconscious movements controlling the pointer through something they call the ideomotor effect. Whoever you believe, there's no denying the popularity and notoriety of a Ouija board. Demons and malevolent spirits have been reported to show up, especially in the last decade or so. One of the more popular tales is that of Demon Zozo, who we've done a video on in the past. Go check it out. A man claims that his daughter was almost drowned thanks to Zozo's influence, and also that she got very sick with an undiagnosable illness. There have also been stories of folks not respecting or even outright laughing at demons they've conjured and paying the price big time. Don't mess with the Ouija. Coming in at number 2, Beyond the Gates. Remember VCR board games? You would set up a board with all the pieces and then fire a tape into your VCR and click play and it would make that whirring noise, and then it would instruct you on how to proceed. You could pause it at certain times to make sure that the timing was right, and they always had the most ridiculous mascots slash hosts. Yeah, those were the days. Beyond the Gates is one of these, found in a family's old video shop. A pair of brothers discovered it while going through their estranged, deceased alcoholic father's video store. When they play it, the host, Evelyn, will ask if they're willing to risk their souls. She also asks about their father and has creepily specific knowledge about the players. So of course they turn off the tape, but soon they find themselves waking up at 3:13 a.m., drawn to the cathode ray tube TV. To win the game, they must collect 4 keys, each of which is hidden somewhere nasty. After pulling keys out of drifter, midriff, and police heads, they face off against some nasty ghouls in a secret gated dimension in their basement. At this point, it's play or die. When they ask the proprietor of a game shop about the game, it's revealed that no one has ever beaten it in the past. And whenever the game is returned to the shop, it's not the players doing the exchange. Gotta love a cursed game return policy though, just in case. If you didn't know, this hypothetical board game originated in a 2016 movie of the same name, Beyond the Gates. If Barbara Crampton is gonna steal my soul, so be it. And at number 1, Rap Rat. He's Rap Rat, and he's the boss. Better listen up, kids. Another VHS board game. This one was meant for kids, done in a similar style to Mousetrap. An anonymous storyteller posted his experience of the game online, detailing all of these sick and twisted details. First time he and his siblings played, the little brother left the room crying immediately after seeing Rap Rat. This hideous mascot barely resembled a rat, with ears too big, a swollen mouth, and 2 rotten pointy teeth. The thing that scared them the most though were his glassy fish eyes. He screamed, "Wait your turn," in a demonic low-pitched voice before flashing terrifying images on the screen. A tarantula, a hornet stinging someone's eyes, a pit of writhing cobras, a bloodied syringe, you name it. Naturally they got rid of the tape right away, but not before seeing enough nightmare fuel to last a lifetime. Years later, the same guy found it in his childhood bedroom. He and his girlfriend decided to watch it for laughs, but didn't end up laughing. They were even more terrifying images than before, and when they tried to take the tape out of the player, it burned their hands. A neighbor even called the police because a strange person was scratching at their front door. Needless to say, they wanted to know what the hell was happening. After doing some research, they found out that a child had died in the sweatshop where the rat puppet was made. The child's mother laid a curse upon the production and claimed to summon a fear demon. Her last words to the folks at the company were, "Apparat will curse you." So of course, the big shots over there had a chuckle and named their mascot after a loose anagram of the demon. Apparat, Rap Rat. Smart move. Now, anyone who sees Rap Rat will be unable to escape him. Even if you see a normal version of the rat, he could still be lurking in the shadows, waiting to reveal his true, horrible self. Sheesh. And I thought board games were just for fun. Coming in at number 5, we've got Sad Satan. The deep web is full of all sorts of things you could never find while browsing normally. It's not all drugs and crime though, a lot of it's just the back end required to keep the internet running smoothly. However, thanks to the nature of using Tor and associated onion sites, people tend to be harder to track on the deep web. Anonymity reigns supreme in the depths, which is why so much shady stuff is able to go on. This leads to the discovery and subsequent disappearance of all sorts of weird stuff. Like when Jamie from Obscure Horror Corner came across a deep web horror game. A fan of the show sent it to Jamie after being unable to get it to run on their own computer. Titled Sad Satan, this unsettling black and white game is essentially a walking simulator with plenty of small, creepy details to pick up on. If you just played it straightforward, trying to get from the beginning to the end as fast as possible, you'd basically just walk in a straight line a bunch of times, maybe hearing a freaky noise or seeing an image or two. The graphics tend to glitch out a little, and eventually some children show up and cause damage to the player. There's no way to defend yourself either, so once these little gremlins show up, it's basically game over. Jamie found a bunch of questionable content through the download link in addition to the game, so he didn't want to make that link public for everyone. Instead, he recorded himself playing it and uploaded that to YouTube. Since he started doing this, a whole bunch of folks have done their best to dissect the content of the game. There are plenty of strange images and sound bites that appear throughout, including the last residence of Archduke Franz Ferdinand, full of antlers, and a photo of Margaret Thatcher and Jimmy Savile at a NSPCC event. This is likely an ironic jab at Savile, as he was also later accused of child abuse. There are also references to JFK right before his death, Satanism, and Charles Manson. Jamie also claims that the game would generate gibberish-filled notepad files and constantly put them on his desktop. This unsettled him, leading him to delete the game. Further digging led to the discovery of more information about the person who uploaded Sad Satan to the deep web forum in the first place. Signing off as ZK, this user commented on other things, usually about pretty dark topics and Satanism. In terms of explicit curses, there really aren't any, but the game is so jam-packed with questionable content and references to occult themes, I wouldn't be surprised if someone else managed to get their hands on the files and ended up in a rough spot. Coming in at number 4, Taboo, the Sixth Sense. Didn't your folks warn you against paganism? While today they're more popular and widely accepted than ever, tarot cards used to be a big taboo. See what I did there? These harmless fortune predictors were considered to be a fast track to joining a cult, selling your soul, and ending up in hell. So, of course, an NES game with the sole purpose of giving you a tarot reading received its fair share of urban legends. Marketed to adults with a warning label reading for entertainment purposes only, it's hard to imagine why so many kids were given free reign with Taboo, but hey, here we are. The game itself isn't super impressive, even though it was developed by Rare. It would prompt the user to enter their name, birthday, and gender before inputting a question that they wanted answered. Then the game would generate a tarot reading using the Celtic Cross layout, followed by some lucky lottery numbers. These cards were illustrated and actually included some nudity and religious images, which were usually unacceptable under Nintendo of America's content guidelines, but for whatever reason, Taboo was given a pass. There are lots of different stories about what exactly the Curse of Taboo was. Some people claim that it very accurately predicted the brutal deaths of some children playing it. Others claim that it caused children to become irritable, irresponsible, and prone to running away. This was then attributed to a cult using the game to lure kids into their grasp. All of this before Donkey Kong Country even came out too. Is it possible that Rareware made a deal with the devil through Taboo to put out a bunch of classic games at the cost of their ever-living souls? We may never know. Coming in at number 3, we've got Polybius. Polybius is one of the more infamous cursed video games. It's still up in the air as to whether it really ever existed, but that could be thanks to some very sneaky covert cover-ups. The legend started circulating in the early 2000s when the title appeared on a website cataloging old arcade cabinets. Even though no one could find evidence of it actually existing, stories began to circulate about how it was so popular that it became addictive. People would line up to play and even get in fights over who was next up. To add to the mystery, apparently Men in Black would come around and collect data every once in a while, supposedly testing responses to the game's psychoactive effects. Those who played Polybius were reported to suffer from amnesia, insomnia, night terrors, and hallucinations. Then, like a ghost, the game disappeared. It seems that whoever's behind this cabinet caper has left some hints though. The name Polybius also belonged to a Greek historian from Arcadia, who was famously known for his assertion that historians should not report what can't be verified through interviews with witnesses. Could this be a clever game designer having a laugh at our expense? Or is it someone trying to tell us something about the nature of memory and the Men in Black? If you look one step deeper, the name of the supposed company behind Polybius can be found: Sinneslotion. This could mean something along the lines of sensory deprivation based on the German words that have been mashed up to make this name. Again, the information points us to the direction of not being able to fully understand what's happening. It's a mystery letting us know that we can't possibly know everything. We're deprived of certain senses in this case. To this day, the game has never been definitively proven to exist or not exist. All the details behind it are debatable though, like kids having seizures while playing, the possibility of psychedelic drugs being tested on users, and the nature of the game itself. Intrepid investigators have gone as far as submitting Freedom of Information Act requests, which still turn up nothing. While emulators of the supposed game do exist, there's nothing in terms of solid proof. In at number 2, Prodigy Priest King. This anomalous game first appeared on store shelves in 1988 and was recalled within a month. All sorts of strange phenomena started happening around the time of release, leading the SCP Foundation to investigate further. This game is an adventure-style RPG with many secrets to discover, akin to a classic Zelda game. The player is tasked with exploring the labyrinth in order to collect the mirror, the jewel, and the sword. Most folks who purchased the game were unable to acquire any of the three and thus became frustrated. The game itself seemed to be extremely glitchy, often soft-locking players out of locations and playing the same sound bites ad infinitum. This was only the beginning though, as it began to exhibit more dangerous and disturbing anomalous properties over the period of time between November 29th and December 9th. Children began acting odd, reporting body parts becoming numb and avoiding regular responsibilities in order to play the game. People who had played the game were discovered in dark rooms, covered in wounds that appeared to be self-inflicted. Odd, fleshy masses were reported, and many folks became disfigured in ways that I can only describe as Cronenbergian. As more of the game was discovered, more and more people started feeling the negative effects. The phrase, "this is where I died," kept showing up, even in places where there should have been no prior contact with somebody making the same statement. A dead child stood up post-mortem, people playing the game regurgitated reflective glass, and ropes manifested at test sites. It's hard to explain exactly what happened here, as it's all so widespread and weird. If you're someone with a mind for solving mysteries, check out the original article on the SCP Wiki. You won't be disappointed. And lastly, at number 1, Cabinet Man. You can't win me, I can't be beat. I won't hurt you unless you cheat. You can't see me behind the screen. I'm half human and half machine. The third song on Lemon Demon's 2016 horror-themed album Spirit Phone, Cabinet Man details a video game cabinet maker's journey to become a game himself. The song tells the tale of a man grafting his organs inside of an old arcade cabinet, circuit board to brain, lungs collecting change, one big human heart gently beeping. Although the reporters reported him to be dead, the man lived on within his creation. He was brought to an arcade and spent years as a popular attraction. There was no way for players to know what was really going on, so they happily played this rare game at their local arcade. During his time there, the cabinet ate a few maintenance men and drove a few kids to madness, but hey, a game's gotta live. However, as time went on, home consoles began usurping arcade cabinets as video game royalty. The cabinet man got lonely, his lungs shrunk for lack of coins. Then, on a dark and cold Christmas Eve, a man broke into the apartment. The trespasser went around smashing machines and stealing coins until he made it to the cabinet man himself. As he was stealing quarters and vandalizing, he noticed something strange. Blood on his sneakers. That's where the story in the song ends, but you can all imagine what happens next, right? Driving kids mad, eating repairmen, small potatoes compared to what the cabinet man's about to do to this vagrant. If you're ever at a barcade and you notice something staring back at you while you smash buttons playing track and field, maybe take a break.